This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Hi everyone. Good morning. Welcome to today's session. So in the previous session, we have seen how to create a software component, how to import that software component, how to create namespace, folders, and all these things. What is the purpose and how it will help you, right? So any questions on that topic? Okay then. Fine. So I'll continue with the next topic for today. Let me log in. Let me share my screen. So yeah, I've shared my screen. Let me know if you're able to see it. Again, this is not available. Is my screen visible to you? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we'll discuss about before we start with any interface discussion or any objects that are needed to be created as part of that interface. So before we go ahead further, I just want to make you understand what are the things that we need to keep in mind when you really want to create any objects that are related to any interface and all these things. Okay. So you can consider this as an interface development points. Okay, what are the points that you need to keep in mind when you have to create an interface for yourself or when you have to modify an existing interface? Okay, so that you can define the interface easily by understanding these points, so that you can understand what is structure and what is a center and all these things you can understand by these questions that you put yourself. Okay, so first one is, for suppose, let us assume that you get any requirement as an input. Sorry, you get any new requirement here. Okay, so let us assume that my requirement is PI has to pick the .csv file a from a specific SFTP server and pass the data to ECC via proxy. So this is your requirement. This is how you will get it. So okay, don't worry that you will get your requirement as a single line. No, it won't be like this. You will get a functional document or business requirement document which will address you what is your requirement. Okay, so on a high level, on a summary, this is what your requirement. Okay, where it is clearly mentioned that PI has to pick the data, pick the CSV file from a specific SFTP server and pass the data to ECC via proxy. This is your requirement. Okay. Now, based on this, what did you understand? what is your sender data and what is your receiver data, what did you understand based on this? So whatever you can understand from this statement, let me know what you understood. So what PI is trying to pay and what PI is trying to send, all these things. Guys, please try to keep it interactive so that it will be easy for you and me also. Hello. Yeah, guys, what did you understand from this statement?
Okay, sender is a non-SAP system.
Okay.
Receiver is an SAP system.
Okay, receiver is SAP.
Yeah,
What else you understood? What is the how the data will be sent or how the data will be picked from sender?
through SFTP adapter, I think. Yeah,
But I think you already aware of this. That's why you're directly saying it. But when you split each and everything, how the data will be represented? So the data will be represented in a CSV file, right?
yeah,
Okay, and this file has to be picked by PI from SFTP
yes,
server.
yeah.
Okay, then there might be few data modifications that will be given as part of functional document. Okay, and how the data has to be sent. Data should be sent to receiver via proxy. So when anyone tell you that you have to send the data or you have to receive the data using proxy, it means the communication is with SAP application or backend ERP application, and it goes. That's why we call it as a proxy. This is one of the mode of communication. I'll discuss about this later. So the proxy means data will go in XML format. Okay, using SOAP channel. So this is how you have to split the requirement and understand what all the information that you can get from the data that has been given to you. Again, I'm saying from the document or from an email or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. When you get any requirement, you have to break that and understand what is the information that is available for you at this point of time. Okay, so that you can understand how you can implement this, and if there is anything else missing for you, you can ask them accordingly. Okay, simply by looking at this statement, if you gain experience, yes, simply by looking at this statement, you can understand all these points immediately. But if you don't have experience, better you split each and every word individually and understand what it represents and what information has been given to you. Again, I'm saying this is very important exercise for you. If you don't understand this, you cannot understand the requirement. I'm clearly telling you that. Okay, that's why I have asked you multiple times to read this and let me know what all the information that you understood from this statement, but I don't did not get any response from except from one. Okay, if you keep quiet, that's fine, not an issue, but understand you are the one who is going to lose if you don't express yourself or if you don't understand anything. Okay, not me. Okay, try to be more interactive. Next. Okay, so from this
Just
we understood
dot
that we have,
theme CSV file which contains what?
yes,
CSV
it can
file.
contain any data. There's a lot of background noise from your end. I don't understand the question what you're asking.
What do you mean with
Oh, okay.
.csv file? The file
Yeah,
contains
.csv file.
which contains what, sir?
Okay, this file can contain any information. At this point of time, we no need for you to worry about what information it contains. Let us assume that it contains employee data. Okay, so first thing you need to understand is what is .csv file. It is nothing but a flat file that is represented in a special character separator or a comma separator. Okay, as employee name, as this is my first name. Okay, separated by comma, separated by last name, separated by comma, separated by again next value as location. Okay, okay, separated by comma, again next value as a company. So like this, you will get the data for a CSV file in this format where your data will be a flat file and separated by special character like this, either comma or either pipe. This is also a CSV file for you. You can save it as a CSV file. Okay, .csv you can do. Okay, so like this you can get multiple employee records in a single file. Okay, with the different information. Okay, so this is how a CSV file looks for you, and your requirement is you have to pick this CSV file and convert it accordingly and then pass the information. Okay, how we convert and all these things we'll see later, we'll discuss about that. But for now, what you need to understand is, as it is a CSV file, data will be in this format and you have to pick this file. So when you want to pick this file, you have to connect a particular FTP or SFTP server and then pick the data, and then you have to pass it to your EC2 by proxy, right? This is how you have to do it. Next, so when you get this requirement, what are the things that you need to keep in mind? So these are the things that you need to keep in mind. First one is, what is your sender and what is your receiver? Okay, so for this requirement, what is your sender and what is your requirement, what is your receiver is something that you need to understand. Okay, here your sender is a non-SAP and your receiver is SAP. Okay, so if it is non-SAP, what is the system name? Whether it is RPG or any other non-SAP application, it can be, that is part of your requirement. You have to understand what is the system name that is providing you this file. Okay, at the same time, what is your receiver? You understood that your receiver is SAP system, but what is the system ID for that? That is something that you need to understand. Then interface pattern, okay, or interface type, whether it is asynchronous or synchronous. So asynchronous means one-way communication. It means you will get the data from your sender and then you will send it to your receiver. That's it. There is no other response that you are going to get from your receiver. Whereas synchronous means You will get the data from your sender and you will send it to your receiver. At the same time, you will get a response from your receiver and you will send it to your sender. Okay, so that is two-way communication for you. Okay, is this yeah. Okay, so asynchronous means one-way communication. Synchronous means two-way communication. Okay, yeah. Next, what is the schema or structure? What does it mean? It means when you are developing an interface, you have to represent the structure or schema of your sender and receiver. What it will do or how it will help you. It will help you to understand that, or it will help you to receive the data in the corresponding schema. Okay, for suppose my schema is each record contains first name, okay, then last name, then location, then company. All right. So this is the data that I'm going to receive for each record. Okay. Each line is nothing but my each record. So this is the data that I'm going to receive, for which contains first name, last name, location, and company. So when you know that this is the data that you're going to receive, okay, you have to create your schema accordingly. Either you can create it by yourself, or if you are getting any external definition, or you can use it. What are these? We will discuss about that later, but schema is very important. Either you can create it using data type, or you can import it using XST or Vistel as external definition. Okay, but schema is very important for you to represent your sender and target structures, so that you can receive the data. If it is a sender, you can receive the data in this structure. If it is receiver, you can pass the data in this schema. Okay, next. What is a communication component you have to use? I already told you, I think. Communication component is nothing but either business system or business component. Okay, we call a business system as a communication component, and we call a business component as a communication component. Okay, now when anyone tell you that you have to use this communication component, it can be either business system or a business component. And if they specifically tell you that, okay, you have to use a business system for this, then it is a business system. Okay, so depending on the sender and receiver, we choose either it is a business system or a business component. We go for business system for SAP applications. We go for a business component for non-SAP. Okay, so we go for business component for non-SAP, right? Yeah. Next, what is a message protocol? Message protocol means what kind of adapter that you have to use. Okay, so as your sender is a file, we go with either FTP adapter, file adapter for FTP server, or SFTP adapter for SFTP server. So it depends on where your file is available. If your file is available in SFTP server, we use SFTP adapter. If your file is available in FTP server, we use file adapter. At the same time, how you want to communicate with your receiver. Here in this case, we want to communicate with our receiver using proxy, via proxy. It means we are going to use a SOAP adapter or a SOAP channel. Okay, next, channel or adapter type. Okay,
Sir,
for
once
your sender and
repeat
receiver.
message.
Sorry,
Can you repeat once again, sir? Message protocol.
okay, message protocol is nothing but what is a protocol that we are going to use while you communicate with your sender and receiver. Okay, depending on the protocol, we choose the adapter type. Here in this case, for Okay, don't worry. Here I have mentioned as sender, so receiver. This is your sender, and this is your receiver. Okay. So here, my message protocol for receiver is a proxy, whereas my message protocol for sender is file. So when you have message protocol as file, you can use then it means you are trying to pick a file, right? So now the question is from where you are trying to pick the file, whether it is FTP server or SFTP server. If it is FTP server, we use a file adapter. If it is SFTP server, we use SFTP adapter. Okay. Next, you want to communicate with your receiver using proxy. So as it is proxy, we go with SOAP adapter. Okay, or a SOAP channel as your protocol is proxy. Okay. So this is how, depending on the protocol, we define or we come to a conclusion which type of adapter we have to use. Okay. So you understood what is adapter or a channel also that should be used. Now, what is interface type, whether it is a pass-through or normal, I'll discuss about this later. Okay, don't worry. Then what is interface type again? Is it a classical or ICO? If it is a single stack, we have one option to define the interface only as ICO. If it is a dual stack, we can define the interface as a classical also. Okay, we'll also see this later, don't worry. What is a mapping sheet? Mapping sheet is nothing but, for suppose, okay, this is your sender structure and your receiver structure might be like this. Okay, so where as part of your data that you're sending to your receiver, you don't have first name and last name separately. Your validation might be like this, where you have to concatenate your first name followed by your last name and then pass it to your receiver field name. Okay, so so you have a validation here where you have to concatenate or you have to combine these two values and then pass it to your name field on the target side. So this is your validation, which will be part of your mapping sheet. So mapping sheet is nothing but it's an Excel sheet or a document that contains your source structure and that contains your target structure and that talks about what is the validation that you need to apply, mapping validation or mapping rule that you need to apply for each and every field on your target structure. Okay, so if there is nothing, they will leave it blank. If there is anything, they will provide you the validation as like this: concatenate first name with last name by having space in between. So it means you have to concatenate first name with last name by having a space in between. So the separator should be a space between first name and last name when you're trying to concatenate, right? Like this, they will provide you some information so that you can define the rule accordingly, right? So these are the questions that you need to understand or that you need to keep in mind when you're defining any interface. Okay, so now these two questions will come into picture. Okay, what is interface type, pass through or normal? Generally, when you define any interface or when you create any interface, we so in this case, if you see, we are trying to do some modifications on the data level by applying some validations, right? When I say modifications, it means you are trying to concatenate your first name and last name and pass it as name here, right? You are doing some data level validations or modifications. So for this, what you will do, you will do it using message mapping. Okay, so this is a normal scenario for you. Okay, when do we say it as a pass through? Let us assume that this is not your receiver. Okay, so this is your sender structure and this is your receiver structure, where both your sender and receiver are same. Okay, so when you have sender and receiver, what you will do, you just pass the same data as it, first name to first name, last name to last name, location to location, company to company. So in this case, even though you create a message mapping, there is nothing big difference that you're going to make because you are passing the same information as is. So in this case, generally what we will do is we will consider this as a pass through, as there are no changes at the data level during runtime. So that's why we don't create any mapping at all. One second.
Shravan, we cannot hear you if you are talking. I think you are on mute.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, so we were talking about pass-through scenario, right? Pass-through scenario means your sender and receiver will be expecting the data in the same structure or same format. If not in the same format, in the same format and the same structure. Okay. So where your sender will be sending the data in this schema and your receiver also will be receiving the data in this schema only. Okay. So in this case, there is no need for you to create any message mapping. Okay, because we are not doing any validations at the data level. Okay, so what we can do without creating any mapping, we can define the interface. That's what we call it as a pass-through scenario. So pass-through means, some people will call it as a bypass also, bypass scenario also. It means no mapping is needed. Okay, whereas normal means mapping will be used. Okay, so this is the difference. Okay, so we'll see what is a pass-through scenario, how to define normal scenario. We see all these things when we start developing interfaces, okay, in the coming sessions. But at the initial point, these are the questions that you need to keep in mind and question yourself whether you really have answers to these questions, so that you can understand the requirement in a much better way. Okay, so make a note of these points, and then whenever there is any new requirement or whenever you're going through an existing interface, try to answer these questions by yourself so that you will understand how the interface has to be developed or how the interface has been defined, if it is an existing interface. Okay, any questions?
The third point, what is the schema and structure?
So schema and structure is nothing but, for suppose this is the data that you are going to receive. So what does it mean? This is your first name followed by your last name followed by your, sorry, followed by your first name followed by your location followed by your. So when you see this kind of data, what does it mean? You are receiving the data in this format, or with this is the data that you are going to receive. How you want to represent internally in PI? Remember, internally in PI, everything happens or the execution happens in XML format only. all the data that get executed during runtime inside PI. Everything will be in XML format only. So for you to represent this in XML format, you need a schema or you need a structure. So for that structure, this is the structure that you will be using, where your structure will be having few fields or nodes. Fields are nothing but these ones. Your first name will be one field, last name will be one field, location will be one field, and company will be another field for you. So these are the fields that we're going to use as part of our schema. How do we create this schema? All these things we'll see when we create data type and all these things. Okay, but schema is nothing but an object, or a schema or structure is nothing but the representation what we will be using to define the structure, how the data will be received or how the data will be sent. So what are the objects that we use? We create a few specific objects for that. We create data type or XSD or a WSDL as an external definitions to represent that schema or structure. Okay, what are the schema structure that we are talking about here? These will be represented or created using these objects. Okay, how do we create or represent them? We'll see that in the next session.
Yes.
Okay, so these are, yeah. So these are the questions that you need to keep in mind whenever there is any new requirement for you. Any other questions? Okay. So tomorrow, as we understood how to break down the requirement and how to understand what is our input, or what is the information that you get from your requirement, how to what are the points that you need to keep in mind. Tomorrow we will discuss about a complete end-to-end requirement, and then we will try to implement the interface according to our understanding or according to that requirement. So tomorrow, depending on the points that we discussed today, we are going to have some questions and we are going to answer ourselves, and we're going to get the necessary answers so that we will create the interface accordingly. So try to go through today's session again and then come prepared for tomorrow's session. Uh, okay, one more thing. Yeah, come prepared for the next session so that we can create the necessary objects that are needed. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know, or else I'll have one more thing to inform you before I close. Okay then. Okay, yeah. So that's it from my end for today. So